that I think there's a lot going for the authenticity of this site. Whenever you're trying to determine in the Holy Land whether or not a site is authentic, you have two rules. The archaeological rule is, how deep is it? Because if it's still indeed very close to the surface, you know it doesn't have much antiquity, because Jerusalem's been destroyed and rebuilt 13 times since the day of Jesus, and each of these destruction layers provides a rubble and a new base for, and so you go up in the air. For example, one of the least convincing sites on Holy Land today, as far as I'm concerned, would be the upper room, because they still have an upper room there. If we're on ground level, I might agree, all right? And inside the upper room, they have Gothic arches, which will not be invented for 11 centuries yet, and so forget that. But the Grotto of the Nativity, don't forget, is 18 feet below the surface level of the church's floor to the present day yet. So it's quite interesting. Archaeologically, it works. It's sufficiently deep. Now, the other rule for authenticity is, how far back does a paper trail go? In other words, how long has the church regarded, or even society regarded, this as the site? The paper trail goes back 17 or 18 centuries. Let's wind back to the first Christian emperor, Constantine. Urged on by his pious mother, Helena, he wanted to build churches as memorial sites over the main points in Jesus' ministry. He built the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, up in Galilee, Peter's house, and of course at Bethlehem, the Church of the Nativity. His engineers and architects went to the Christian bishop of Jerusalem. His name was Macarius, and they asked him, did he know where Jesus was born? Well, absolutely. It was a living tradition in the church, and so Macarius pointed out the very place in Bethlehem where Constantine built the original Church of the Nativity. To this day, you can walk into the church, which was rebuilt by Justinian, the later Byzantine emperor, a couple centuries later. But the floor of Constantine's church is still there. They lift up the wooden trapdoor so you can see the beautiful mosaic of Constantine's own floor. Now, that's not bad. That's going back 17 centuries. Well, let's go back 19 centuries, shall we now? This is within 3 generations of the Nativity. I call to witness Justin Martyr, one of the early fathers of the church who gave his life for Christ. He tells us that he could point out in Bethlehem the very grotto or cavern or cave where Jesus was born. See, Jesus wasn't born in a wooden stable above ground like everyone thinks, or like these olive wood creches under our trees. He was born in a grotto or cavern that was used as a stable. The Bethlehem escarpment is honeycombed with these caverns. And indeed, what do you have today under the high altar of the Church of the Nativity? A grotto there. So I guess my point is this. With a paper trail going this far back, with a proper depth of elevation, why wouldn't the Bethlehemites remember the biggest thing that ever happened there, except for the birth of David 1,000 years earlier? Those are the only 2 big things ever happened there. This was their Eiffel Tower. This is what drew the tourists and the pilgrims. This is their Colosseum. This is their Parthenon there. Why wouldn't they remember where it happened? That this is the authentic site.